Grand Tribunal for the state.
Theodore Edgecomb appearing with Attorney Nika Mad.
And Attorney Biabi Lamar.
Afternoon, the jury's back. It's about 1:30. Who's the state's next witness?
Your Honor, it was going to be Officer Beeman. She's still on her way, so I'm going to call Latent Print Examiner Hurley just out of order.
Fine. We'll have the jury brought in. Everybody can remain seated while we're bringing the jury in, please. All right, jury's coming in. Remain seated, please. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I was a little nervous there with the last three of you coming in. I thought somebody might have got food poisoning downstairs. Don't scare me like that next time. Looks like you all chose wisely and either brought your own lunch or did well in the lunchroom roulette in terms of lunch. So we're going to continue. We have a next witness. Who's the state's witness?
State calls Latent Print Examiner Hurley.
Stand, sir, and be sworn in.
You solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Please be seated. State your full name, spelled first and last, before we have to mask.
You can take your mask off if you're comfortable. It's easier for everybody, please.
Benjamin Hurley, BenjaminHurley.
How are you employed, sir?
I am a latent print examiner with the Milwaukee Police Department.
How long have you been a Latent Print Examiner?
4 years.
And in your capacity as a Latent Print Examiner, do you have to have any specialized training or experience?
We receive training through, like it's a 6-month training program with our chief latent print examiner, and then we continue like another year with him watching over our cases, and then within 5 years we have to be certified by the International Association of Identification.
Okay. And so it's kind of like an apprenticeship program, is that correct?
Yes.
Have you testified as an expert in the field of latent print identification before?
I've testified as a latent print examiner, but not as a certified expert.
But as a latent print examiner?
Correct.
How many times?
I'd say at least 15 times.
Okay. Now, in terms of latent print examination, what's a latent print?
Latent print is the impression when you touch something, your fingers leave behind a mark, and that's unique to each person. Your fingerprints are made up of arches, loops, and whorls. When you look at your fingers, you have little ridges and furrows, and that's made up of mostly water and oils. And when you touch something, it can be left behind, and sometimes it can't be left behind. Just depends on the dryness of your skin and the surface of the area.
Because I touch something, does that mean my latent prints are going to be able to be identified on that item?
Depending on the surface, it possibly could be or could not be. If it's dirty or like the type of surface can affect the impression when it's left behind.
Okay. Additionally, even if latent prints are found on an item, can you tell from looking at them when they were placed there?
You cannot.
How long they were there?
Nope.
Under what circumstances they were there?
No.
In terms of latent print examination, are you always able to come to a conclusion as to whose latent print somebody left on an item of evidence?
Not every time, because the impression could be like impressions on top of impressions. It could be smeared. That would be considered unidentifiable. And sometimes a print is it's pretty much as we call like identifiable, but it might not hit on anybody.
Okay. When you're trying to identify a latent print, are you familiar with the term sufficient quantity and quality for identification purposes?
Yes, I am.
What does that mean?
That means that when I'm examining a latent print, that I'm looking for certain characteristics in that impression, which are called minutia, which each latent print has. You have your ridges, and where they stop, that's called a ridge ending. Sometimes they bifurcate like a fork, that's called a bifurcation. The core of the fingerprint can be three different types, a loop, whorl, or an arch. Those are things that I'm looking for, and to have at least enough to say, like, yes, that is that person.
Okay. Now, in terms of this case, sir, did you have an opportunity to look at some latent prints that were recovered from the passenger side of a vehicle by an officer Beeman?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How many total lifts of possible latent prints did you look at?
There were 2 lifts, and 1 lift was a relift, so there were 3 latent prints in that case.
What do you mean a relift?
Sometimes when a forensic investigator or a police officer, if they're processing that scene, they could initially lift the prints that they see, and they could say, I think I could do better, and they could apply tape over this same area again and then call it a relift.
Okay. In this case, there was a relift of which one or two?
Number 1.
Okay. So if we're looking just, for example, at State's Exhibit number 30, and that, of course, is... All right. So just pulling back for a little bit. Can't really see it that well. Our equipment sucks. Can you see the 2 and the 1 on this piece of evidence?
Yes. Yes.
There we go, much better. So pulling it out. In terms of latent print number 1, was that the one that had the relift?
Yes, it was.
Okay. On either the original lift or the relift, were you able to determine whose latent print it was?
I was unable to.
Why not?
I deemed it insufficient for identification due to smears, and there wasn't enough minutia that I could locate out of it.
Okay, so despite the best efforts by Officer Beeman and by yourself, can't tell us whose latent print was at position number 1?
Correct.
Okay. What about the latent print at lift number 2?
Lift number 2, I also came to the same conclusion that it was unidentifiable, that I could not determine who made that impression.
No idea whose it was.
Correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Cross.
We have nothing. Thank you.
Fine, you can step down. Thank you.
Your Honor, state calls Jeffrey Parr. You're going to that.
Fine. Sir, if you can remain standing when you get there, raise your right hand so you can be sworn in, please.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Please be seated. State your full name, spelling first and last for the record.
Jeffrey Parr, Jeffrey Parr.
Mr. Parr, you can take your mask on if you're okay with that. State can proceed.
Thank you. How you doing today, sir?
Good.
Okay. Now, I want to draw your attention to State's Exhibit number 84. I'm going to kind of put this on the big screen here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit.
Hang on, Mr. Parr, just scoot in a little. You can turn if you need to, but try to use the mic, okay? Go ahead.
There we go. And can you see where we are from there?
Yep.
All right, let me give you a little bit more light here. Okay, so if we're looking here at State's Exhibit number 84, we can see Holton, we can see Brady. You can take your mask off, sir, if you're okay with it, if that makes you feel more comfortable. Do you recognize this area that we're looking at?
Yes.
And when you, back in September of 2020, did you witness an incident that occurred in that area?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. Specifically, September 22nd of 2020. Now, where were you working at the time?
A bar, Mango's Cafe.
Mango's Cafe?
Mango's Cafe.
Okay. Let me get that microphone off. I know you're a little soft-spoken, sir, so let's try and get that up for you. And when you, as far as where Mango's was at the time, was that on Brady or was that on Holton?
Van Buren.
It was on Van Buren? Okay. And where were you in relationship to what we're looking at here at Brady and Holton?
Standing outside of Mango's.
Standing outside of Mango's. Okay. And are you to the north, to the south, to the east, or to the west of this intersection?
To the south.
To the south. So down here where this Holton becomes Van Buren?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Let me just ask the jury here. Yes? Okay.
what were you doing outside Mango's?
Smoking a cigarette.
Break time?
Yes.
And were you with anyone?
Yes.
Who were you with?
Jose, former employee.
You both worked there.
Yes.
Were you friends?
Yes.
And while you're outside smoking a cigarette, talking to your friend Jose, does anything catch your eye?
Me, no.
Okay. Are you anything brought to your attention by
Yes.
Jose?
Yes.
What?
Look at that car.
Okay. And which way is he pointing?
North.
Okay. So if you guys are south, he's pointing north to what? The intersection of Holton and Brady?
Well, yes.
Okay. And when you first see the car, where do you see it?
Turning north.
Okay. So it's turning north and kind of getting into Holton, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what's this vehicle doing?
Driving.
And is there anyone else around this vehicle?
A bicyclist.
A bicyclist. Where is the bicyclist in relationship to the vehicle when you see it?
20 yards in front.
Okay. Jose says, look at that vehicle. The vehicle is turning, going northbound, and the bicyclist is already going northbound.
Yes.
Okay, so you, just so we're clear, pick up this incident once everything is kind of heading northbound.
Yes.
All right. Do you see anything that happens kind of in the area of Zanya's Pizza?
No.
Do you see anything that may have happened further eastbound on Brady
No.
Street? Okay. So you basically pick it up around the turn.
Yes.
All right. What's the car do?
swerves towards the bicyclist.
Okay. And then what happens?
The passenger gets out of the vehicle,
What's the bicyclist do?
gets off the bike.
Okay. And what's he doing?
Well, I mean, I need like a better question.
Yeah, it's a horrible question. Let me ask you this. After the bicyclist gets off the bike, what does the bicyclist do?
He kind of stands there.
Okay. And where bicyclist kind of stands there, the passenger from the vehicle, what does he do?
Walks towards the bicyclist.
Okay. He walks.
Well, he had a stride in his walk. It was not a jog or a run.
It wasn't a jog, it wasn't a run, you thought it was a walk.
Yes.
But you said it had a stride in it? So it was like a purposeful walk. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And this passenger, where's he walking with this purposeful walk?
Towards the bicyclist.
Okay. What's the bicyclist doing?
Standing there. He really didn't move.
Okay. And bicyclist doesn't move. Passenger gets out of the vehicle. He's walking with a purpose towards the bicyclist. What happens next?
Oh, the bicyclist looks like what it appeared, pulled out a gun and shot.
I didn't hear the last part.
Looks like appeared as a gun and shot.
Okay. Did you see a gun in the bicyclist's hand?
No.
Why did you think that it was a gun and a shot?
Because of the gesture of the bicycle's hand movement.
You said because of the gesture?
The gesture of the hand movement.
Of the bicyclist?
Yes.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Like put his hand up.
Put his hand up?
Yes.
Did you hear a gunshot?
I mean, I heard a gunshot, yeah.
But you
It
couldn't
was,
actually
it
see
couldn't
the gun.
really see if it was a gunshot or,
I apologize.
One at a time. And I still need the witness to speak up. Go ahead.
Okay. So, bicyclist raises his hand in a manner that made you think he had a gun,
and I heard a pop.
and you hear a pop. Then what happens?
The man falls face forward.
And when you're saying the man, is that the
The
guy?
passenger,
Okay. Just wait till I'm done. I know, you're nervous, right? Is that a yes?
yes,
First time testifying?
yes.
Okay. Wait till I'm done with the question, and then, it'll go a lot easier, okay? So the passenger, you hear a gunshot, he falls face first.
Yes.
What happens next?
I go inside of Mango's and
You go
call.
inside
I go
where?
inside of Mango's and call 911.
Okay. And was Jose with you?
Yes.
All right. The passenger. Did you see him raise his hands?
Not that I remember.
Did you see him with a weapon?
No.
Did you hear any yelling or screaming between the two?
No.
Did you hear any screaming from the car after the passenger got out?
No.
The bicyclist. Could you see his face?
No.
So you couldn't tell us what his demeanor was like?
No.
Just saw him raise his hand and shoot?
Yes.
After he shoots and after the passenger falls down to the ground, what does the bicyclist do?
There's a stairwell over there by the bridge. He kind of took off down the stairwell.
Do you know either of the people involved in this incident?
No.
Do you Were you ever able to identify who the shooter was?
No.
Police asked, you just couldn't do it, right?
Yes.
One moment. Apologize, sir. Let me just get this ready to go. Now, Your Honor, do I still have evidence control?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have State's Exhibit number 39 currently in the computer. I'll be playing the first 911 call, which is labeled 153-9395. Starting at 1 second into recording.
Fine.
Van Buren and Brady on the corner.
Okay, where is it?
The bridge. On Van Buren and Brady on the corner.
Pausing in 13 seconds. Do you recognize that person's voice?
Yes.
Who is that?
Myself.
Okay. Playing from that portion.
Going northbound over the bridge towards Fulton. I think somebody just got shot in there. I'm far away. I'm not going over there because
Just a moment, Dan. Did you get any shot in the head, sir?
I don't know if he got shot. I don't know if he got shot in the head. Is it a real gun or not? I'm like 200 feet away. And I want to just kind of dispel.
Hi, sir, just a moment. Just a moment. This is Milwaukee Police Department. I have a caller on the line at North Van Buren and East Brady Street. Can you please, someone was just shot in the head. We are responding.
Thank you, police. Caller, this is the fire department. Repeat the location. Sir, go ahead.
Van Buren and Brady going northbound over the bridge towards Fulton. They're on the very first part of the bridge.
On Van Buren?
It turns into Fulton on the bridge, so I'm Van Buren, put Van Buren and Fulton right on the bridge, so.
Okay,
Van Buren and
okay, what's your phone number, sir?
414-499-3918.
Thank you. Tell me exactly what happened.
I was just outside smoking a cigarette. I'm at work, and we seen like this car pull over by a bicycle, and the guy got out of the car, approached the bicycle. The bicycle guy kind of hopped over the railing to go on the other side, and I was going to hear a pop, and you just fell face forward, and it looked like you just shot him in the face.
Okay, are you there with him now?
No, I'm not going nowhere near this.
Okay, the fire department is out, so you can't tell if he's moving or anything?
I can't tell from right
Okay, that's fine, sir. Just stay at a safe distance. We're on the way. Finish with the police, please. We'll see you there.
10-4. Hello, sir. Can you tell me your name, please?
Jeffrey,
Jeffrey, and where do you work?
Ringwood Cafe.
Okay, and I have a callback number of 499-39918. Can you tell me the vehicle that the subject pulled up in, what color, make, and model it was?
The vehicle's still there. It
It is? Okay.
My phone right there. I know I'm on my 4% now.
Okay,
But
can you tell me what color it is?
It's something like a silver vehicle.
Okay, can you tell me if it's two door or four door? Okay.
Is that a 4 or 2 or 5? It's a 4-door Kia, somebody's telling me.
4-door Kia? Okay, that's good. And
That's gray silver.
okay, can you tell me what the guy looked like with the gun?
I'm too far away.
Okay, could you tell what race he was, or if you had what time he had?
On the bike at the time. Somebody telling me African American.
Okay, so the guy on the bike, was that the victim?
No, the guy on the bike was the guy that shot. And he was riding his bike and he hopped over the railing of the bridge. And I don't know where he went. I'm not even going over there right now.
Okay, so he hopped over the bridge, then he had a gun?
I didn't pretty sure it was a gun. I mean, I heard a pop and the guy just kind of limped down. But nobody's over the screen or nothing, so I don't know what, you know.
Okay. Okay, we got the call in for service. Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, the state would move that portion of State's Exhibit Number 39 into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No objection.
Fine, received.
Sir, I just want to be very clear. At one point, you stated, you thought it was a real gun, right? Why did you say it that way?
Because the pop noise wasn't really loud.
Wasn't or was?
Was not.
So you heard a pop, you saw a guy fall down, so you were unsure really as to whether or not he had been shot. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was just my assumption.
Okay. Was that nervous for you? Was this a-
Yeah.
Okay. And just to be very clear, you picked this up as the bicyclist and the vehicle are already rounded that corner from Brady and they're heading northbound.
Yes.
Didn't see what happened on Brady at any location.
No.
How close were the bicyclist, the shooter, and the man who was shot? How close were they to each other when the shooting happened?
3, 4, 5 feet, real close.
Okay. And that would be from person to person, not necessarily an extended arm to the
Yeah.
person, right?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Cross.
Good afternoon, Mr. Parr.
Mhm.
I just want to go over a few things that you testified to on direct. The first being, you indicated on the 911 call that you were far away, correct?
Yes.
You indicated you were 200 to 300 feet away.
I'm sorry.
Can we move the microphone over?
Mr. Parr, you indicated that you were 200 to 300 feet away.
Yes.
Correct. So you were, according to the map that the state demonstrated, let me see, you would have been across the street, correct?
Yes.
All right. So you weren't on the corner of Houghton and Brady on the same side of the street where the incident occurred. You were actually across the street, right?
Yes.
And vehicles would be going back and forth in that direction, correct?
Yes.
Right? Traffic is going both ways, right?
Yes.
Vehicles are turning right while this incident is going on, correct?
Not that I remember.
Okay, but if a vehicle did go past, it would tend to obstruct your view, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So you indicated on direct examination that you did not see the face, like any of the facial components of the defendant in this case, correct?
Yes.
You didn't see his face, but you saw his arm, though. Is that what your testimony is?
Yes.
Okay. Was there something obstructing your view of his face?
No, it was just too far.
So it was too far to see his face, but you could see his arm.
Yeah.
You also indicated that what you recall is you did see a vehicle go around the corner. Is that right?
Yes.
And that vehicle would have been driven by the Cleeremans, as you've come to learn?
I don't understand the questions.
Okay, there was a vehicle that was behind the bicyclist, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you seen that vehicle take a right turn, correct?
Yes.
Can you describe the manner in which that vehicle took a right turn?
I feel like it was a normal right turn.
Okay. Let's go to State Exhibit 34, please. Okay. Okay, we can go ahead and play. And if you could stop right now, please. If you could back it up a little bit. Right here.
That's 9 seconds.
Right here is fine. Now, Mr. Parr, you see this vehicle? Is this the vehicle that you're referring to when you said it was making a right turn?
I really can't see that vehicle there, but
Well, why don't you can
no, I mean, because it's half the car showing.
Okay, the state of mind is doing once. Okay, let's stop right there. Is this the vehicle that you recall seeing?
I don't remember the vehicle identified.
You don't remember the vehicle?
100%, I don't remember the vehicle.
So you can't affirm or deny whether this is the vehicle that you saw take the right turn.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Does this vehicle appear to be in the middle lane to you?
Yes.
Okay, and so it's not in the right lane, correct?
Correct.
You would agree that a normal right turn would not be taken from the middle lane, correct?
Correct.
Okay, let's go ahead and play the video, please. All right, can you please stop? So that vehicle made a right turn from the middle lane, correct? That would not be a normal right turn, correct?
Correct.
And it also did not, it's also going, right now, it looked like it's going in the direction of the bike lane, correct?
Correct.
All right, go back. Stop it right there. So based off this vehicle, the vehicle is now going into the bike lane, heading directly at the defendant in this case, correct?
Correct.
Did you report that to 911 when you made that call?
I don't recall.
Okay, well, we just listened to the 911 call. Did that didn't refresh in your recollection at all?
I don't recall what the...
Okay, if the state played. We're now playing State Exhibit 39 for the record.
Operator 45, where is your emergency?
Van Buren and Brady on the corner.
Okay, where is it?
Over the bridge. on Van Buren and Brady on the corner, going northbound over the bridge towards Holton. I think somebody just got shot in the head.
Okay.
I'm far away. I'm not going over there
Okay,
because
stay on the
I
line just a moment, stay on the line. Did you see him get shot in the head, sir?
somebody got shot. I don't know if he got shot in the head, if it was a real gun or not. I'm like 200 feet away, and it was a pop noise, and it just kind of dispelled.
Hi, sir, just a moment. Sir, just a moment. This is Milwaukee Police Department. I have a caller on the line at North Van Buren and East Brady Street. Can you please, someone was just shot in the head. We are responding.
Thank you, police. Caller, this is the fire department. Repeat the location. Sir, go ahead.
Van Buren and Brady going northbound over the bridge towards Fulton. They're on the very first part of the bridge.
On Van Buren?
It turns into Fulton on the bridge, so on Van Buren, put Hendrickson and Fulton right on the bridge. So
Okay,
Van Buren and
what's your phone number, sir?
414-499-3918.
Thank you. Tell me exactly what happened.
I was just outside smoking a cigarette. I'm at work, and we seen like this car pull over by a bicycle, and the guy got out of the car, approached the bicycle. The bicycle guy kind of hopped over the railing to go on the other side, and I was going to hear a pop and do the self-face forward, and it looked like he just shot him in the face.
Okay, are you there with him now?
No, I'm not going nowhere near this.
Okay, the fire department is up, so you can't tell if he's moving or anything?
I can't tell from right
Okay, that's fine, sir. Just stay at a safe distance. We're on the way. Finish with the police, please. We'll see you then.
10-4. Hello, sir, can you tell me your name, please?
Jeffrey,
And where do you work?
name was Perez.
Okay, and I have a callback number of 499-3918. Can you tell me the vehicle that the subject pulled up in, what color, make, and model it was?
The vehicle's still there.
It is? Okay.
My phone, I know I'm on my phone percent right now.
Okay,
But
can you tell me what color it is?
It's looking like a silver vehicle.
Okay, can you tell me if it's two-door or four-door? Okay.
Is it a 4 or 2 or 5? It's a 4-door Kia, somebody's telling me.
Four-door Kia? Okay, that's good. And
It's gray silver.
okay, can you tell me what the guy looked like with the gun?
I'm too far away.
Okay, could you tell what race he was, or what time he had?
Somebody's telling me American.
Okay, so the guy on the bike, was that the victim?
No, the guy on the bike was the guy that shot. And he was riding his bike and he hopped over the railing of the bridge. And I don't know where he went. I'm not even going over there right now.
Okay, so he hopped over the bridge, but he had a gun?
And I didn't breathe through the gun. I mean, I heard a pop and the guy just kind of limped down. But nobody's over the street or nothing, so I don't know what, you know.
Okay. Okay, we got the call in for service. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, so Mr. Okay.
Hi, Charles. This is Charles. Yeah, 216 shooting. Next time.
All right, so Mr. Parr, I want to ask you again. Did you tell 911 that you seen the vehicle make a regular right turn when you caught them?
Yes.
You said that on the 911 tape?
Well, I told them I didn't really see what car it was. That's the car. I didn't see it. I didn't know what the make or model of the car was.
Right, so you didn't indicate that they made a regular right turn either, did you?
No.
You also didn't inform the police department when interviewed about a vehicle making a regular right turn either, correct?
No. I couldn't really see so where I'm standing, you can't see the car until it's already in the turn. So I had no clue if the car was in the middle, right, left lane.
So from your
I just
vantage
seen
point,
the car after the turn was made halfway through the turn.
Okay,
So it appeared to me as a normal turn.
okay, so you're saying that you have problems from your vantage point seeing the vehicle turn in front of you, correct?
Yes, because I haven't seen it until it was halfway through the turn.
Okay, and you would agree with me that the incident took place almost a block away from that corner,
No.
correct?
No.
Okay, what would you describe the distance be? You said you were far away, right?
Yes.
All right, so you
The
said it was 200 to
distance-
300 yards, correct?
Yeah, the distance from the corner to the incident happened, about 100 feet. I wouldn't say a whole block.
Okay. You also told the police department that it looked like Mr. Cleereman was walking it was a purposeful walk as you described it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you ever tell the police department that you seen Mr. Cleereman, go from a walk to a jog or chasing or anything like that?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So you don't never recall ever saying that Mr. Cleereman chased Mr. Edgecomb?
No, not that I recall.
Okay. At this time, I want to now bring into evidence State 83, please.
You want Dorian?
Yes.
What's your time?
Yeah. And before we go into 30, I want to ask one other question. Mr. Parr, do you recall ever informing a police officer that when Mr. Edgecomb entered into, after he gets off, he's going down the sidewalk, correct? And then he turns right into the small little area, correct? You recall telling the police officers that he was trying to going down the stairs at that time?
He went down the stairs after.
No, but did you recall telling the police department that he was trying to go down the stairs before this incident came to be?
I don't recall.
Okay. We're gonna start playing at 23 minutes.
Sir, did you see what happened? Okay. Do you have an ID with you? Okay.
I'm gonna stop right there, please. Mr. Parr, is that you?
Yes.
Okay.
Jeffrey, okay if I call you Jeffrey? What's a good phone number for you? 499 498. What's your current address? Let me give that back to you. So what happened?
So from what I've seen is that the people that were in the car were chasing him in.
Please stop the record, please.
Okay.
Stop. Can you please stop right there, please? Want to go back to 24 minutes, please. And pause at 24 minutes. That's good. That's good enough. Now, Mr. Parr, you just told this jury that you never told an officer that the Cleeremans was ever chasing Mr. Edgecomb.
I don't recall.
Okay, but you recall it now, though, correct?
Yes.
You can continue on, please.
Let me give that back to you. So what happened?
So from what I've seen is that the people that were in the car were chasing him in that was on the bike.
Okay.
Where did you see it start from, and where were you standing? I was actually sitting down, so the orange corners. The one on the corner, or the one farther back? There's a patio chairs down there in front of Mango's. Oh, okay, so you were sitting in front of Mango's? Okay. A cigarette. And my buddy over here, that's being interviewed over there, was like, look, that car's chasing that bike.
Can you pause it, please?
Chasing the bike, sorry.
Now, Mr. Parr, you indicate that your buddy said that this car's chasing that bike, correct?
Yes.
So you didn't actually see it yourself, right?
Like I said, I seen it once it came over the corner, because he acknowledged it to me.
You continue, please.
I picked it up from right here. Okay. You know, and they pull up on the bike, the passenger gets out of the vehicle. Okay. And goes towards the guy, like confronting him for something or whatever,
Can you stop it?
The guy
Can you
on the
stop
bike
it,
was
please?
going down.
Now, you just indicated that the guy got out the bike and he confronted the defendant, correct?
I said they came out of the vehicle and it seemed like they were.
Hang on. You said the guy got off the bike and confronted the defendant. By all evidence, the defendant was on the bike. So that's an unclear question.
Mr. Parr, did you indicate that Mr. Jason Cleereman got out the vehicle and confronted the defendant? Yes or no?
Did I hear it?
Did
No.
you say that?
Did I say that he confronted him? I said that. You see it, I said that.
Okay. Can we go back about?
Can you speak up and say that again?
I said that's what it indicates in the video.
Can we go back about 5 seconds again?
Like, so I look, the car's chasing the bike, so I picked it up from right here. Okay. You know, and they pull up on the bike, the passenger gets out of the vehicle. Okay. And goes towards the guy, like confronting him for something or whatever, The guy on the bike was going down, like, going towards the steps.
Stop it, please. At that point, you just indicated on the video that the defendant was going down, trying to go down the stairs, correct?
Yes.
And that's not what you just told the members of the jury, was it?
No.
You told the members of the jury that he was just standing there, didn't you?
Yes.
And that's not consistent with what you just said on this video, is it? Is that a yes or a no?
No.
Can you go back 5 seconds again?
Down face first.
Okay, so you're sitting on the chairs in front of Mango. You saw the bike was going eastbound on Brady, and the car followed him?
Yeah, no, okay. The bike was going westbound, so they were going.
I'm sorry, yeah, the bike was going.
They made a right turn, going across the gate train.
Now you said the bike stopped at that little going down ramp?
Well, the car kind of got out. The car kind of like.
Beat in there?
Not necessarily beat him. They kind of got there at the same time. The guy got off the bike, like, you know, the guy came out of the car. They kind of like confronted each other.
Okay.
So whatever it may be,
Alright.
no clue. And then the guy that was on the bike literally shot one time. He must have ran down them stairs after.
Can you stop it right there? You said he must have ran down the stairs, correct?
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Parr, obviously, you know, we're trying to get the correct version of your testimony today. Now, you said that Mr. Cleereman confronted Mr. Edgecomb, correct?
I did say that.
Is that true?
It was my assumption because of the situation that happened.
So did you see that or did you not see that?
See what?
Did you see Mr. Cleereman confront Mr. Edgecomb?
That's what it appeared to.
Appeared based off of what? Is that
Of the way somebody's walking towards somebody.
so? You see Mr. Cleereman walking toward.
Counsel, stop interrupting him. And this is getting very close to badgering a lay witness. So let's stop that.
That's how I feel, Your Honor.
Right, because that's what's going on. So counsel, stop badgering a lay witness who saw some of this incident. Just ask questions and give him a chance to answer.
You can go ahead, Mr. Parr.
It was the
question. Ask him a question.
Mr. Parr, you indicated that Mr. Cleereman was walking toward Mr. Edgecomb, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever see Mr. Cleereman chase Mr. Edgecomb while he was on the sidewalk?
As in the car or out of the vehicle?
On the sidewalk. Did you see Mr. Cleereman chase Mr. Edgecomb?
And Cleereman is I get the two names mixed up between the two people.
Okay,
So if you
Mr.
could say the bicyclist, that makes it clear for me.
Okay,
I apologize.
the defendant right here is Mr. Theodore Edgecomb. All right, he was on a bicycle. Okay. Did you see Mr. Cleereman chase Mr. Edgecomb?
No,
You only seen Mr. Cleereman walk toward Mr. Edgecomb. Is that your testimony?
I don't recall if he was really walking towards him or not. What I recall is the passenger getting out of the vehicle and walking towards him. As in the one phone call states, it says about jumping over the thing. I can't recall that as well. I just know there's a median there and they were both in the street. So he had to have jumped it to go down the stairs.
Okay, was your attention on this incident from the time that you seen Mr. Cleereman get outside the vehicle?
What do you mean by that?
Were you focused completely on this incident from the time that Mr. Cleereman exited the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't take your eyes off of it. You were completely focused in on it, correct?
Yes.
All right. At this time, I want to go into state, I believe it's 34, please. While the state is preparing State 34, I'll ask another question to you, Mr. Parr. At any time, did you see Mr. Cleereman lunge into Mr. Edgecomb?
Not that I recall.
But you do recall Mr. Edgecomb raising his arm to shoot Mr. Cleereman. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Yeah. And you also don't recall Mr. Cleereman running or jogging toward Mr. Edgecomb?
It was, like I said, it was like more of a fast walk stride.
Okay. All right. Okay, so State Counsel, if you wouldn't mind starting the vehicle at this time. Starting the video, please. Okay, if you can stop it right here, please. Now, Mr. Parr, I want you to describe the actions that Mr. Cleereman is taking at this moment as we get ready to begin the video, okay? All right, you can go for it. Okay, if you could stop it, please. What would you describe that right there, what Mr. Cleereman just did?
As in, what do you...
What is his actions? How would you describe his actions at this point?
I mean, you're hopping out of the car on somebody.
Okay, and what did he do after he hopped out the car?
He was walking towards him in a faster stride.
Okay, fast stride. Is that the fast stride you were just speaking of?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why.
Go.
That's why I said I felt there was an altercation, because you're not just gonna get out of a vehicle like that.
So you thought that he got out the
There's
vehicle?
my assumption.
So you believe he got out of the vehicle aggressively?
Well, yes.
Guys, gentlemen, one at a time. A question, then an answer.
Yes.
Okay, so just for clarification, you believe that Mr. Cleereman got outside of this vehicle aggressively?
Not majorly aggressively, but yes, there was a stride in his step. That's what I was talking about before.
Okay, so that was just what you just described. Now, the state, if you can play the video at this moment, I want you to now describe his actions now.
I can't even.
Okay, you can stop it, please. Did you see a difference in the purposeful walk that you described before?
I can't even see the video.
Okay, if we could back up, State, and if we could allow Mr. Parr to come a little closer to the screen, if he can.
Mr. Parr, you can step down if you need to speak up and use your outdoor voice, please.
If we could back it up about 10 seconds, please. I think this is a good point. If you could go now, go forward now. And if we could stop right there, please. Mr. Parr, how would you describe Mr. Cleereman's actions?
That's running. That's not what I recall.
Okay.
Say that again.
That's running. That's not what I recall.
Okay. One more thing, I'm sorry, Mr. Parr, but I want to show you one more thing while if you could come down so that make sure you can see it. If we could go ahead and press play, I want you to concentrate on Mr. Cleereman here. Okay, if we can stop it there. Did you see Mr. Cleereman take a step or a lunge toward Mr. Edgecomb?
Can you play it back for me, please?
Hold on, bro.
Okay, stop it right there. Did you see Mr. Cleereman lunge toward Mr. Edgecomb?
Yes, but that's not how I recall it.
If you could go on the mic and say that so make sure everybody can hear you.
Yes, but that's not how I recall it.
Now, Mr. Parr, have you met with the state in this case in preparation of trial today?
Yes.
How many times?
Once.
Have you met with the defense in this case at all?
No.
Okay, no further questions.
State.
Did the defense ever ask to meet with you?
No.
So the reason you didn't meet with them was because they never bothered to call you up and say you want to talk?
Yes.
All right. Additionally, we called you, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Brad.
We called you, correct?
Yes.
And had anyone over at that table said, Mr. Parr, we'd like to interview you about this, would you have talked to them?
Yes.
Would you have gone to meet them anywhere they wanted to go?
Yes.
All right. Now, we just showed that the video, correct?
Yes.
You're testifying to the best you remember, is that right?
Correct.
Now, as we saw in the video, it does appear that the victim takes a step forward and then he's dropping right away. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell definitively whether or not that step is part of him falling or not?
No.
Can you tell us, just based on what you've seen, like whether or not he's being shot before the step, after the step, during the step?
Can't tell.
Honestly, can you tell much from you, just what you were looking at, what was going on?
No.
And you actually saw this thing, right?
Yes.
One other thing, when we were listening to the body cam, defense counsel kind of pushed past it a little bit, but on the body cam, you referred to them confronting each other, didn't you?
Yes.
You stated passenger got out and they confronted each other.
Yes.
That's what it appeared to you.
Yes, that's what it appeared to me.
Okay, now I just want to be very clear. Did you hear any voices?
No.
Did you hear what they were saying?
Nope.
Did you see anything before your friend says, hey, that car appears to be chasing the biker?
No.
Did you, as we saw in the video, you didn't even see the car chasing, right?
No.
That was what your friend told you, and that's what caused you to take a look and turn over and see, unfortunately, what you saw.
Correct.
Nothing else, thank you.
Any additional cross?
Yes. You just indicated that you don't recall the defense ever reaching out to try to talk to you about your testimony, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And you work at a car shop, don't you?
Yes.
All right. Do you recall Ashley Sheldon reaching out to you? Ashley, would you please stand up?
She didn't reach out to me. She just came up to my place of work.
She came up to your place of work.
And she said she was in Milwaukee Police Department.
She said she was the
She said she was with the police.
Okay.
Sidebar.
continue. I'll make a record on that later. Go ahead.
Now, Mr. Parr, you indicated that it appeared that Mr. Cleereman and Mr. Edgecomb were confronting each other, correct?
Yes.
All right, so let's go back. If we could go back to the starting point of this video.
Your Honor, the starting point is not where he says he picked it up. And quite frankly, just watching the video, I'm going to object to this at this point because just watching the video again and again and again, he should be asked about what he saw.
I agree. Sustained. We can play the video, though it's been played now at least 25 times. We can play it with this witness for another 1 or 2 questions, then we're going to move on.
Mr. Parr, you indicated that you initially didn't see Mr. Cleereman lunge into Mr. Edgecomb, correct?
Yes.
So the starting point of your recollection would be simply the gunshot going off, correct?
That's what it was assumed, that's why he fell.
Thank you. No more questions.
State, have any questions, any additional questions?
I'm hating to do this, sir, but if I understand defense counsel's question correct, he tried to make it seem like the first thing you remember is the gunshot going off. Is that the first thing you remember?
No.
Okay. You've described what you remember.
The first thing I remember is the car, I don't want to say swerving because it really wasn't a swerve, but it was a slight approach towards the bicyclist.
Okay. So you saw the approach.
Yes.
And the guy gets out.
Yes.
And he moves with a purpose.
To my knowledge, he takes like 2 or 3 steps towards him. And it was like a second or 2 that happened in between. So that's why I said there was a confrontation. That's what it appeared to me as. And then I see the bicyclist's hand raise. And then I see the person that hopped out of the passenger fall down. And then I see the bicyclist run down the stairs. By that time, I'm already inside of my establishment calling police.
Thank you. Nothing else. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, you can step down, sir. We may be taking a break in a minute, but who's the state's next witness?
Jose Perez.
All right, I'm going to take a short 10-minute break for the jury. The jury can follow my bailiffs out. Everybody else can remain seated. 10 minutes. All right, we're going to take a break. I want to discuss that sidebar. I called for an immediate sidebar because the testimony that was just elicited by the defense was that their own investigator allegedly told the witness that she was a police officer, which would first of all be false, secondly be dangerous in terms of the presentation of this case. Who wants to explain that? Beyond that, for the defense, that potentially makes your assistant or investigator a witness. Your side, Mr. Ahmad, just elicited testimony in making it a big deal over who that witness spoke to and didn't speak to. Mr. Lamar said, you didn't come and talk to us, did you? And then when the state followed up on cross, the witness, who's a lay witness who has no interest in this case whatsoever, said your investigator or your assistant who's sitting at the table right now, a blonde female, came and represented herself as a police officer.
Judge.
No, I want to hear from them first. Fair enough, Judge, but can I at least, because the defense ends up finding out about the accusation about 2-3 weeks ago from myself. And
Which accusation?
What you're referring to. So if I can just briefly explain what occurs so you understand. So here's what happens. When we reach out to Mr. Parr, this is going to be in preparation for the first trial date. We met with all the citizen witnesses that we plan on calling. And we meet with him. And I asked him, I said, hey, has anyone reached out to you to talk to you about this case? Because just wondering if that had happened. Sometimes the press does it, sometimes defense attorneys do it. I just wonder if anybody had done that. He says, no, a detective talked to me. And I asked him, I said, what kind of detective? He goes, a Milwaukee police detective. A woman came over, and he was of the impression because he said that he thought she was wearing some sort of vest, and that this woman called him on the phone and said, you can come on down to, and what he was left with the impression was the station, or she'll come meet him. And he said, well, then come meet me. And if you come meet me, you know, he's like, why would I go talk to the police if they're willing to come to me? He then says that a female who he couldn't remember the information of, we were trying to ask him to find the phone number of, then comes and talks to him. He goes, I told him the exact same thing I told everybody else, same thing I'm telling you guys. And she says, thank you, and walks away. His impression was that this was a detective. The reason I was so nervous about this was, A, I knew of no detective and had not asked a single Milwaukee police detective to go re-interview witnesses, so I was worried that there was potentially another interview out there that we hadn't disclosed to the defense. I checked with my detectives. They knew of nothing. The only blonde detective I checked with her. Wasn't her. She didn't do it. And then, through some belief, we believed it was a defense investigator associated with the defense firm. And sometimes I could see that maybe they refer to themselves as a private detective or investigator, and maybe he was left with that impression. I contacted the defense. I said, hey, just so you know, Mr. Parr was left with the impression that someone that worked for your firm was a police department. They told me it wasn't anybody from their firm. They said that they had a paralegal who reached out, and that was it. I didn't know anything about actually going to the place. Then so my impression was that they were just trying to reach him, and I didn't think anything of it. The reason I went along with my questioning was defense counsel's question of, well, you met with the state, you didn't meet with the defense, led me to believe that this wasn't someone with their firm. Because when I talked to defense counsel, when I talked to Mr. Ahmad, honestly, at the end, we thought maybe there was some private firm maybe trying to get some civil lawsuit that might be doing some investigation. He told me it had nothing to do with him. We knew it wasn't the Milwaukee Police Department. And then when defense counsel says, well, you never met with us, that would obviously include someone sitting at their table that they didn't meet with. So I was left in the impression it was someone completely different. I wasn't expecting them to then point out their own paralegal, and then that was unfortunately the answer that we got. So that is the factual basis of how I came aware of it, and I let defense counsel know that whoever talked to him left him with the distinct impression, based on how they introduced themselves, that he was speaking to a Milwaukee police detective.
None of that alleviates my concern, because no one that's not an attorney speaks to the court. Mr. Ahmad, that does not relieve any of my concern. Everything the state just said heightens my concern. This was discussed. Now this comes in as a surprise. Your paralegal was just potentially made a witness in this case. And as you know, I'm not saying this occurred, but if it did occur, impersonating a police officer is a felony. Okay? This is not a good situation, and I want an explanation right now from the defense.
Judge, as I explained in chambers, so Attorney Huebner had contacted me a couple weeks ago. We were discussing some witnesses, and then he brought this up regarding Mr. Parr. At that moment, Ms. Sheldon was in my office, and I had her come in, and we spoke together, all three of us. It was on speakerphone with Attorney Huebner, and I told her no. She did reach out to Mr. Parr. I believe she had a brief conversation with him at work. She gave our own business card. We wanted to meet with them to come into our office. I don't think there was any follow-up. But Ms. Sheldon works with me and Attorney Nolan and Attorney Lynn, who all practice here in Milwaukee. We always identify ourselves as a modern associate.
Then the problem is you asked a specifically misleading question to the witness, because you and your co-counsel know, based on what you just said, that your investigator spoke with that witness, and yet Mr. Lamar led the witness into saying, well, you didn't speak to our firm, did you? Yes, that's exactly what was said. Because Mr. Lamar was trying to imply bias in that witness because he spoke to the state and not your firm. Exactly what Mr. Lamar asked was, well, you didn't come speak to us. Counsel, that's a problem.
We never hung plan on making Ms. Sheldon a witness. We wanted to move on.
The state may want to call her as a witness now.
Attorney Huebner? And there are two firms involved, Attorney Lamar's firm and then our firm.
But Mr. Mott, as you know, you're a team.
I understand, Judge, that,
Okay, that's like the head coach telling me he didn't know that the assistant coach was calling a timeout or vice versa. Doesn't work that way. We're taking a break. We're in recess. 10 minutes.